The morning after the bookstore evening, Allison woke before her alarm. The sky outside was still pale, streaked with early light, and the air inside her apartment carried the faint chill of September slipping into October. She lay in bed for a long moment, listening to her own heartbeat. It felt steady, stronger somehow. Then she remembered, she had read her words out loud. To strangers. And they had listened. Her cheeks warmed at the memory, half with embarrassment, half with wonder. She padded into the kitchen, poured water into the kettle, and leaned against the counter while it heated. The memory replayed itself in fragments, the bookstore's golden light, the smell of paper, the circle of faces leaning toward her as she spoke. The silence after her last line, not awkward but full, like the room itself had been breathing with her. Then the applause. Then the woman who squeezed her hand and whispered, "I felt that." The kettle whistled, startling her. Allison laughed softly, shaking her head. She hadn't laughed at herself in a long time. Over coffee, she opened her notebook. She expected the words from last night to look childish, not worthy of the attention they had received. But instead, she saw them with new eyes, imperfect, yes, but alive. She underlined a sentence. Added a margin note. For the first time, she didn't feel like she was writing only for herself. She was writing for connection. That evening, her phone buzzed with an unfamiliar number. "Hi Allison. This is Mariah, the one who read the poem about her grandmother last night. A few of us usually grab coffee after the writer's evening. We thought you might like to join next time." Allison stared at the message. Her instinct was to decline politely, to retreat. But her fingers hovered over the keyboard, hesitating. Finally, she typed back, "I'd like that. Thank you." Her chest tightened after sending it, but it was a good kind of tightness. The kind that comes from stretching into new space. The next week, she returned to the bookstore. This time, her steps felt less heavy, her sweater less like armor. When she entered, Mariah waved her over. A small group was gathered near the back, already chatting. "Allison, hey." Mariah said brightly. "Glad you came back." Introductions followed, Sam, the older man with the battered notebook. Jules, a young teacher with ink smudges on her hands. Ravi, who worked in IT but wrote stories about his childhood in India. The circle felt looser this time. Friendlier. Allison found herself laughing at Jules's dry humor, nodding as Ravi spoke about memory, listening intently as Sam described how writing had pulled him through his divorce years ago. She realized with a start that she was not the only one carrying grief. Not the only one trying to stitch words into something that might hold her together. When the host asked again if anyone wanted to read, Allison didn't freeze this time. She didn't volunteer immediately, but her hand rose halfway, almost of its own accord. She read a new piece. Short, rough around the edges. A reflection on how morning still felt like David's absence was fresh, but how each sunrise also carried a quiet invitation to keep moving. Her voice shook less this time. Her breath flowed easier. When she finished, the silence came again, the good kind. Afterward, Sam leaned closer and murmured, "Keep writing like that. It matters." Allison's throat closed. She only managed a small nod, but something deep inside her opened. At the cafe afterward, the group crowded around a small table, their mugs steaming in the dim light. Conversations overlapped, favorite books, failed drafts, the strange way life spilled into writing whether you wanted it to or not. Allison mostly listened, but every so often, she added a thought. And when she did, people didn't just nod politely. They leaned in. She couldn't remember the last time she had felt like part of a table. Days began to shift after that. Her morning still started with running shoes and cold air, but now there was anticipation threaded into her steps. Anticipation of Thursday evenings, of shared words and steaming cups of coffee afterward. Her notebook filled faster. Not only with grief, but with scenes she observed on the subway, snippets of overheard conversations, tiny sketches of strangers in cafes. She was noticing the world again. And each time she noticed something, she thought, I can write about this. I can share it. One afternoon, while waiting for her laundry to finish, she found herself writing a letter to David. Not a desperate one, not one begging the universe for his return. Just, a letter. She wrote about the bookstore. About Mariah's poem, Ravi's stories, Sam's quiet wisdom. About the way she had read her words and how people had listened. I wish you could have heard them, she wrote. But maybe you did. Maybe you're somewhere in the silence that follows, in the space where people breathe after the last line. When she finished, she didn't cry. She closed the notebook gently and set it aside, her chest full but not breaking. The ripple continued. At work, her coworkers noticed she smiled more, even joked once or twice. Her neighbor, the one with the golden retriever, commented, "You've got a lightness about you lately." Allison didn't know how to explain it. She only said, "I've been writing again." And for the first time, that felt like enough of an answer. One Thursday evening, the host announced an upcoming open mic night at a larger venue. Anyone could sign up to read. The idea made Allison's stomach flip, but instead of shutting down the thought immediately, she let it linger. She pictured herself at a microphone, the room larger, the silence deeper. Her hands trembled at the image. But under the fear was something else, a pulse of possibility. When she left that night, Mariah walked beside her. "You were great tonight," Mariah said. "You should think about signing up for the open mic." Allison laughed nervously. "I don't think I'm ready for that." "Maybe not," Mariah replied. "But you're closer than you think." The words echoed in her mind long after they parted ways. Back home, Allison stood by the window, looking out at the city lights. She pressed her hand against the glass, as if she could steady herself against the whole wide world. She thought about the bookstore circle. About the cafe table. About the ripple spreading outward from a single evening when she had almost stayed home. Her grief was still with her. But now, it wasn't the only thing. There was connection. There was belonging. And maybe, though she could barely admit it yet, there was even hope. And Allison realized, as she closed her notebook for the night, that belonging didn't erase the ache. But it softened it. And sometimes, softening was enough.